killer drones, virtual reality headsets, political scandals, and Facebook. What do all of these things have in common? One man, Palmer Luckey. At just 21, he revolutionized virtual reality with the Oculus, taking the tech world by storm. But as quickly as he rose, things took a darker turn. Lawsuits, political controversy, and the harsh realities of Silicon Valley almost ended his career. But instead of accepting what was being done to him, Palmer found a way to come roaring back, rewriting the rules of an entire industry as he did. This is the story of Palmer Luckey, the tech visionary who refused to stay down. Palmer Luckey. Not many people have heard his name, and why would they? It's been over a decade since he was just a teenager tinkering in his parents' garage, fixing iPhones and messing with old gaming consoles. But back then, nobody knew that Palmer was on the verge of creating something that would change the future of technology. Born and raised in Long Beach, California, Palmer didn't follow the typical path. He was homeschooled by his mom, so he had plenty of time to dive into his real passion, which was in electronics. So while other kids were playing video games on their PlayStation or Xbox, Palmer was busy taking them apart. He wanted to figure out how they worked, and he wanted to know how to put them back together again. What started as a fascination quickly became an obsession with pushing the boundaries of what technology could do.
Beyond the resolution of the human eye. I think that the size and weight of virtual reality hardware is going to move away from these bulky goggles to where it can be about the same size and weight as the glasses that many of you are already wearing and that I should have brought today.
By his late teenage years, Palmer wasn't content with just playing video games. He wanted to be inside them. And his gaming rig was 6 monitors arranged to surround him in order to create an immersive experience. But even that wasn't enough. He needed something more, something that could blur the line between reality and the virtual world. So for Palmer, the choice was obvious. He set his sights on virtual reality. At the time, virtual reality was mostly a dead end, with bulky headsets and disorienting visuals. But Palmer saw an opportunity where others just saw failure. So when the military-grade VR systems he tried left him disappointed, Palmer knew he could do better. So he turned his garage into a lab, determined to build the VR experience he had always dreamed of. Love the fact that it's in a garage, by the way. For 3 years, Palmer worked obsessively on what would become the Oculus Rift. And he wasn't just improving on existing technology here, he was actually reinventing it. And the prototypes, they were crude, but they worked. And Palmer knew that he was onto something revolutionary. But there was one pretty big problem. No one believed that virtual reality had a future. Palmer shared his ideas online, hoping that someone would see the potential. Most didn't. But then came a game-changing moment. Haha, game-changing. John Carmack, the legendary programmer behind games like Doom and Quake, found Palmer's work and asked for a prototype. Palmer sent him one, and soon after, Carmack was showcasing the Oculus prototype at E3, which is the largest gaming convention in the world. After its debut at E3, the Oculus Rift was no longer just a garage project. In July of 2012, Palmer launched a Kickstarter campaign, hoping to raise $250,000 to bring his VR dream to life. But the response was overwhelming. Within 24 hours, the campaign had raised over $1 million. And by the end, Palmer had secured more than $2.4 million. And suddenly, virtual reality was back on the map. It wasn't long before the big players came knocking.
Here's Johnny!
In 2014, Facebook saw Oculus not just as a gaming device, but as the gateway to a new virtual world, where people could live, work, and connect.
Yeah.
Something that you think is very cool.
Check this out.
Wow.
So that's pretty neat.
So Mark Zuckerberg bought Oculus for $2 billion. And at just 21 years old, Palmer Luckey had officially made it. He'd gone from garage inventor to billionaire practically overnight. Could you imagine? At 21 years old? I think when I was 21, I was drunk for like a year. Palmer's rise was meteoric, but he would soon find out that success in Silicon Valley comes with its own set of challenges, and his story was about to take a pretty dramatic turn. After the $1 billion sale to Facebook, everything seemed perfect. Oculus was supposed to be the future of virtual reality, and Palmer Luckey was the face of that future. But behind the scenes, cracks were starting to form. The Oculus wasn't selling as expected. VR was still in its infancy, and the technology wasn't quite ready for mainstream adoption. Now, Facebook, they had bet big, and they weren't seeing the returns they hoped for. As the pressure mounted, Palmer found himself in unfamiliar territory. Oculus wasn't just a startup anymore. It was part of a massive corporation, with expectations to match. Facebook wasn't just interested in gaming. They wanted virtual reality to become the next frontier in social media. And that vision didn't always align with Palmer's. But sadly, sales weren't his only problem. In 2014, just months after the Facebook acquisition, ZeniMax Media, the former employer of Oculus Chief Technology Officer John Carmack, the same John Carmack as before, by the way, filed a lawsuit claiming that Oculus had stolen intellectual property to build the Oculus Rift. The lawsuit dragged on for years, putting on even more pressure on Palmer and his team. By 2017, the jury found Oculus guilty of violating ZeniMax's intellectual property, and as a result, they had to pay $500 million in damages. But while Palmer was cleared of any direct wrongdoing, the damage to Oculus and its reputation was done. As if all of this wasn't enough, Palmer found himself in the middle of a political firestorm. In 2016, it was revealed that Palmer had been secretly funding online meme factories to spread anti-Hillary Clinton content during the US presidential election. Using the alias Nimble Rich Man, very nice username, I don't think he looks that nimble. Anyways, Palmer had contributed to a controversial political campaign that a lot of people saw as far-right trolling. And the backlash was swift. And it wasn't just the media coming after him. Silicon Valley turned its back on him. Facebook executives were blindsided by this revelation. For a company trying to maintain a politically neutral image, having one of their high-profile employees funding far-right internet campaigns was a disaster. Facebook's leadership, including people like Andrew Bosworth, who is now serving as Meta's CTO, by the way, tried to manage the situation. Boz was known for his internal memos defending free speech and innovation, but even he found himself at odds with the political fallout that Palmer had caused. Inside Facebook, discussions were raging about how to handle the situation. Executives like Boz and others weren't just dealing with a media backlash, they were dealing with a company that was divided internally. The media and internal storm grew and grew, and at some point, something had to break. The ZeniMax lawsuit, coupled with the political controversy, had made Palmer a liability that Facebook could no longer afford. So by early 2017, Facebook's top brass made the decision. Palmer has to go. But Palmer's exit wasn't the dramatic public firing you might expect. There were no official announcements, no press conferences. Facebook just quietly cut ties with Palmer. No farewell posts, no public acknowledgements, just a few lines in a news article, confirming that the man who had once been the face of virtual reality was gone. For Palmer, the ousting was sudden, swift, and brutal. One day he was a Silicon Valley star, and the next he was gone. Inside Facebook, many saw this as the only way forward. Palmer's political views had become too much of a risk, and the company needed to protect itself. As Facebook rid themselves of him, seemingly the whole of Silicon Valley turned on Palmer. A particularly outspoken hater was Jason Calacanis, and Jason is a pretty big guy in Silicon Valley. He runs two different podcasts. One is called This Week in Startups, and the other is called The All In Podcast. And he called out Palmer so often. He said he's an idiot and a moron, and called him stupid for letting his political beliefs destroy his career. And Jason specifically calling out Palmer carried a lot of weight. But after a while, the tech world moved on without Palmer. Oculus's future was now in the hands of others at Facebook, and Palmer became something of an industry ghost. His cover on Time magazine, once a symbol of virtual reality's bright future, became a meme. Palmer had become a punchline, and his political misstep cost him not only his job, but his place in the industry that he had helped shape. But while most of the world had either forgot or mocked Palmer, he was planning something bigger. His next move wouldn't just be a comeback, it would be a full-scale disruption. And this time, he was targeting an industry no one expected. Instead of just disappearing and spending his money on a private island somewhere, he came roaring back, and not just with a new venture, but by disrupting one of the toughest industries in the world, the defense industry. And in 2017, he founded Anduril Industries. Not even a year had passed between his firing from Facebook and his founding of Anduril. But if you're a nerd like yours truly, you probably recognize that name, Anduril. It's from Lord of the Rings, and it's the sword that Aragorn carries, and it means Flame of the West. Funnily enough, one of Anduril's first investors was Founders Fund, which is a well-known venture capital firm that have also backed defense giants such as Palantir, which is another company with a Lord of the Rings name. Okay, cool. Enough with the nerd stuff. The idea behind Anduril was simple. Bring Silicon Valley's innovation to the military space, an industry that hadn't seen real disruption in decades. Anduril, however, wasn't interested in maintaining the status quo. Instead of being slow and inefficient like a lot of defense companies are accused of being, Palmer wanted to build fast, smart technology that soldiers could actually use. And he did just that, starting with autonomous drones, designed for surveillance, threat detection, and even taking down jets. And these weren't just fancy toys, they were tools built for real-world combat. As a side note, whenever Anduril introduces a new product, they always make a product video. And those videos are really, really cool. They're scary as hell, but they're really cool. I mean, look at this video. I do not want to be in that car. But their products isn't just drones. They make AI-powered surveillance towers, autonomous submarines, and a lot of software. A lot of analysts have said that this is the exact kind of disruption the defense industry needed, and the Pentagon started to take notice. And lately, Anduril is on a winning spree, outcompeting everyone. But this isn't a defense channel, so let's get back to Palmer. Because he wasn't just proving himself in the defense world. No. In 2022, at the All In Summit, he took the stage and addressed Jason Calacanis, one of his harshest critics, face to face.
What I'm about to do is in very, very bad taste, but I'm going to do it anyway. One of the people who I think embodies this type of NPC thinking, of going with what's popular and not being willing to ever reverse their position even when they're proven wrong, is Jason Calacanis. Let me read about some of the things he said about me over the years. Just a small sampling. Palmer Luckey, hideous. What an idiot. A moron. This guy Parker Luckey, a complete and utter moron. Jesus, this kid is an idiot. Palmer Luckey is just an idiot and a troll. He is dumb. So dumb. For him to pull the plug on the Palmer Luckey experience was brilliant. Kudos, Zuckerberg.
Palmer laid it all out, calling Jason's behavior pathetic. He especially criticized Jason for attacking him when it was popular, saying that Jason and people like him were all too happy to kick Palmer when he was down. But now that he was doing well, they all wanted him to come on their podcasts and come to their conferences, without even acknowledging the damage they did to him when he was down on the ground. The whole thing seemed like a moment that Palmer had been looking forward to for a pretty long time, and Jason, well, he kind of apologized. In addition to addressing his critics, Palmer was also trying to rebuild old relationships. In 2024, Palmer visited Meta to try their new Orion AR glasses. But the real headline came when Andrew Bosworth, Meta's CTO, ended up giving a public apology. Bos tweeted, "I'm sorry for my comments about your time at Oculus. I was misinformed, and I regret what I said." Palmer is known for holding a grudge, but he accepted this one, thanking Bos and saying that Meta had changed a lot and the people that were responsible for Palmer's disappearance weren't even around anymore. But Palmer wasn't just receiving apologies from Bos. John Carmack, the gaming legend who had worked closely with Palmer at Oculus, expressed his regret for not standing up to him during the controversy. Even Mark Zuckerberg finally broke his silence, telling Tablet magazine, "I have a huge amount of respect for Palmer. He's built something incredibly important for national security with Anduril, and I'm glad to see him thriving." If you're Palmer, I think at this point you just need to be really, really happy, because he's getting apologies from everyone who ever wronged him, or he's making fun of the people who did on their own conferences. From being fired to running one of the most innovative defense companies in the world, Palmer Luckey's journey has come full circle. He's built Anduril into a powerhouse, landing major defense contracts, and he's also stood up to those who have doubted him. It has been a comeback that no one could have predicted. Oh, and by the way, he's the youngest person to ever build 2 unicorns. Palmer continues to shape the future, and I don't think his journey is over. And if his track record is any indication, he's just getting started. If you like this video and want to see another one, check out this video about how Mark Zuckerberg's recent transformation isn't as natural as it seems.